Hello kiddies, your Uncle Spurt here and welcome to another sausage slapping episode of TechSpurt Weekly. Hailed as one of the top 10 worst things to ever happen on the internet, sandwiched right in between live beheadings and that time during COVID when a bunch of famous twats sang Imagine. And this week we pull on our mystic Y fronts for a gaze forwards in time at Samsung's Galaxy S25 smartphones, which should be eagerly revealed not long after those Christmas mince pies have finally evacuated our throbbing festive bowels. And of course, as always, there's time to dive into the TechSpurt viewer mailbag and just pray that our fingers don't sink into anything too cold and slimy. But first, of course, a bit of top-notch jingling. TechSpurt Weekly! Now in approx 2 months' time, Samsung will launch its fresh Galaxy S25 Trio. And chances are you won't quite be soiling yourself in surprise when you hear that these will come in regular, plus and ultra flavors. According to some leaks, the Galaxy S25 Ultra will have an even bloody bigger screen this year compared with the S24 Ultra, serving up a 6.86-inch mega bastard. Although if those bezels have shrunk slightly to compensate as expected, then the hand feel could be similar to the S24 Ultra anyway, i.e. about as comfortable to clutch as a pissed off porcupine. Thankfully, some recent leaks and renders do suggest that Samsung has taken the hint and slightly rounded off those pointy corners. So hopefully, unlike the Galaxy S24 Ultra, you won't end up with a nasty case of stigmata when you try and use it one-handed. If you don't fancy attempting to squeeze a phone the size of Plymouth into your pants, well, the regular Galaxy S25 should be another deliciously compact 6.2-inch alternative. And the Plus should also be a fairly regular 6.7 inches, so at least when you finally ram it into your trousers, it won't puncture your pubis quite as violently. Now, months and months ago, some leaky blokes online did suggest that Samsung would finally change up the all too familiar design for the Galaxy S25 series. They said they would tweak it quite significantly, in fact. But from the many leaks so far, the only other obvious change in the look of these handsets is that big chunky bezel surrounding the camera lenses, just like what we got on Samsung's bendy blower, the Galaxy Z Fold 6. Not exactly the most revolutionary face change there, is it? It's kind of like just slapping a mole on Kit Harington. Most people wouldn't even notice the bloody difference. It's still f***ing Kit Harington, obviously. One potentially upsetting revelation is that the S25 phones will reportedly use older M13 OLED screens rather than the fresher, brighter M14 panels as found on the likes of Google's Pixel 9 series. So here's hoping then that if we haven't got much of an improvement in brightness, that Samsung has at least slapped that excellent Gorilla Glass armor plating on all three of its S25 blowers, so they can all enjoy that brilliant anti-glare finish that I adored on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. But overall, it does look like the display tech hasn't changed up much at all for the Galaxy S25 series, so you got the same resolutions, the same 120Hz refresh rate, yada yada yada. So far, so stupidly boring, but as parents of ugly children constantly remark, it's what's on the inside that really counts. And the good news for Ultra fans is that brick house should be powered by Qualcomm's big old burly Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is a startling upgrade over the 8 Gen 3. We're talking more beef than a branch of Angus steakhouse, and just as pricey if rumours are right. Now, not long ago, various web whisperings suggested that Samsung was having a wee spot of bother producing its Exynos 2500 chipsets, which would mean that us Brits might actually get that Snapdragon stuffed into all three Galaxy S25 blowers, the regular, Plus and Ultra. News that was of course celebrated even harder than that glorious day when James Corden announced he was f***ing right off to America. But just this very week, some benchmarking chicanery has leaked online showing an S25 Plus running off that very same Exynos 2500. And of course, spaffing out a score that's not quite as good as the 8 Elite, or indeed MediaTek's Dimensity 9400. So yeah, sorry fellow Brits, it appears that us pallid island dwellers may once again be lumbered with an inferior Exynos chipset in the regular S25 and the S25 Plus. News that has of course been greeted with more gnashing of teeth than that dark day when James Corden announced he'd be f***ing right back to Blighty again. Ugh. Of course, your Uncle Spurt doesn't massively trust benchmarks anyway, especially those that pop up online before a phone has even been bloody released. So I'll reserve judgment until I actually get one in my hand and realise that yes, it's not quite as good. And there's been bugger all leaky action so far about the battery tech that's been stuffed inside of the Galaxy S25 smartphones, which does suggest that it probably hasn't changed up too much, if at all. But even so, here's hoping we get slightly extended life just from software improvements. There's been some rumblings online about Samsung possibly introduce more AI features, shock horror, to get even more mileage out of your battery, and of course upgrades to the chipset tech. And if you're really hoping that Samsung is going to finally boost those battery charging speeds for the Galaxy S25 generation, well, you might as well wish for a pair of tits that squirt champagne, because it's just as likely to happen. The camera hardware appears to have been only slightly updated for this upcoming generation, with possibly the same 50 meg primary cameras slapped on the S25 and S25 Plus, while the Ultra retains that mighty 200 meg shooter. And Samsung also seems likely to stick with the original telephoto snappers, including a double lens setup for the Ultra. In fact, the only upgrade that is potentially leaked so far is a snazzy new 50 meg ultra wide sensor for the Ultra model. Whoop! Of course, I would bet my left bollock right now that Samsung hoys a whole bunch of new AI features at the camera in a bid to make your photos look less crap. And speaking of AI, the S25 phones should come with One UI 7 stashed on there, although Samsung's latest launcher still hasn't made an appearance on older phones, not even a bit of beta action. But yes, obviously there's going to be even more AI, so much AI just gushing from every One UI orifice. And I don't know about you, kiddies, but I think I'd rather commit seppuku than bang on about AI any more than I already have, so let's just nod and say we did. So that right there in a tasty wee nutshell is what we think we know about Samsung's upcoming Galaxy S25 series. So what do you reckon of these rumours so far? Have they got your taint tingling in anticipation? Taint tingling in anticipation? Bit of a tongue twister, that one. Definitely let us know what you reckon in the commenty bit below. And now it's time for the part of the show that's only marginally worse than accidentally trapping your nads in an electric whisk while indulging in your hobby of naked bacon. A perfectly normal and healthy pastime, although it did get me banned from my local community centre. My knackers are still dangling about an inch lower than usual. It's viewer comments. Viewer comments. And let's start this week with Mythic Sons, who wasn't a fan of the spooky atmosphere in last week's Halloween episode. He says, "Man, I know you're going for Halloween, but the overly cold colour temperature mixed with the bright red in the background is giving me Battlefield 3 campaign flashbacks." Now, speaking of first-person shootery shenanigans, I did actually play a bit of a video game the other day for the first time in bloody ages. Bit of the Call of Duty Black Ops, which seems absolutely fine so far. For the first sort of 20 minutes or so, you're just crawling about shooting people in the kneecaps. Good, clean fun. And I got to a bit in a safe house where I was literally just wandering around room to room aimlessly for about half an hour, wondering what I had to do to actually get the next mission to start, to the point where I actually had to look it up on the bloody internet. Never had this problem in Wolfenstein 3D. You just finish a level, you'd be straight into the next one, shooting more Nazis right in the junk. So Boggin says, "Happy Halloween, here's to more phone reviews from Beyond the Grave." Beyond the Grave? Do you know something that I don't? Are you actually my doctor and I've just got weeks to live? I'll tell you what, the thought of reviewing phones, even when I'm dead, is just, ugh. As it is, most nights I dream about reviewing phones because that's all I bloody do all day long. And if I get to the pearly gates and St. Peter is like, "Oh, thank God you copped it, mate. We need one of you YouTube tech dickheads to review this whole batch of phones we got stacked up." Jesus is still on a Galaxy A51 and he's absolutely frothing at the arse. If that happened, I think I would just turn right around and march all the way to Hades. Mouthstick Gaming says, "Your idea of what constitutes a jingle and mine are very different." Yeah, as you may have possibly surmised, music wasn't exactly one of my strongest subjects at school. I still remember bloody primary school, my final year, we did a big school play the whole year all together, and I was told by my teacher that I would be playing the maracas during the big final number. Not even lead maracas though, I was like backing maracas number 4 or something like that. So they clearly clocked my complete lack of musical talent, but little did the teacher realise that it is actually possible for someone to play the maracas absolutely awfully. So terrible, in fact, that it just sounds like someone kicking a wasp's nest down a flight of stairs. So I was immediately taken straight off of maracas duty, and that was basically the end of my musical career. Motivated Procrastinator says, "Man, you really need to start sharing those cool ass anime wallpapers." Well, speaking of jingles, it's been a while since we've had this one. Wall.alphacoders.com, wall.alphacoders.com, that's where my wallpapers come from, wall.alphacoders.com. Wholesome Heating Bollocks says, hello mate, have you got a site or link for that LED Space Invaders sign, please? Yes, so this bad boy here is Twinkly. It's the Twinkly squares, which you can buy individual squares and then fit them together and then get them to produce some sort of spangly LED thing. Eloquent as always. You can tell I'm a bloody tech reviewer, can't you? Yeah, twinkly.com is where you want to head, and yeah, they've got their Christmas shenanigans on there at the moment with Chevy Chase doing the marketing apparently. Good shout. Mark Flower says, hey, not everything's turned into shit. Just found out that Double Diamond Beer is making a comeback. Nostalgia beer rules. And Jed Bullet says, brilliant news if true. I grew up on that crap when I was a young banger. Sadly, I don't think I've ever actually had the pleasure of Double Diamond. My dad was very much a Skull drinker. We just have crates and crates of Skull in the garage, so I also was a Skull drinker. It's probably not a terrible beer to start on because it was weak as piss. We're talking like 3.2% or something like that. The only problem being that even when I was 16, it took me about 10 cans of the shit to get me leathered. Horatio says, definitely looking forward to that Samsung Chromebook review. You're apparently very much the exception, mate, given the viewing figures on that bad boy. Please, everyone who's watching this, go watch my Chromebook review because it's kind of depressing how long I spent on that and how crap it's doing. DC1853 says, Uzumaki and Tommy in the back. I knew Uncle Spurt was a cultured individual, but I didn't know it was to this extent. Still need to get that cat one on the go. I'll definitely look into ordering that bad boy. And on that subject, War264 says, unfortunate about the Uzumaki adaptation. Yeah, it's just so weird what happens with that anime adaptation of the book. Because, yeah, the first episode looked fantastic, but apparently they went and spaffed their entire budget on episode 1, which seems somewhat short-sighted. So it kind of looked like the first episode was animated by Studio Ghibli, and the second episode was slapped together by the f***ing Peppa Pig guys. Void5151 says, that Red Magic anime assistant sure sells the phone for me. Yeah, I'm really hoping she's back in full flirty form for the Red Magic 10 series, that's for sure. Get you ready for a proper bit of joystick throttling action. Jason Minardo says, you know what I need? I need a phone that has removable storage, good thermals, a headphone jack, and some extra mappable side buttons. The cameras can be okay, but I don't want an insane camera bump. And don't forget about the latest processor so I can play me games. So not too fussy then. Well, hopefully the ROG Phone 9 will tick most, if not all of those boxes. We shall see. Brandon67k says, hopefully the lack of efficiency cores on the 8 Elite doesn't become a problem. Aye, the Dimensity 9300 certainly could get a wee bit toasty at times when it wasn't stuffed inside of a gaming phone with ridiculous coolant tech, obviously. So here's hoping the Snapdragon 8 Elite doesn't suffer the same woes and doesn't basically toast your marshmallows when you slip those phones back in your pocket. Mystiker says, what do you think about the Asus Zenfone series? Well, I'm still chuffing waiting on the regular Zenfone 11. You have the Zenfone 11 Ultra, which was incredibly forgettable, basically. But I absolutely adored all the mini Zenfones that came before it, the 9, the 10, etc. So yeah, just need a Zenfone 11, just a regular Zenfone 11. Where's my Zenfone 11, Asus, you c***s and Tillman99 says, I'm an old person like Mr. Spurt. How are your knees these days? Mine are definitely f***ed. Yeah, they're not great. On the whole scale, I'd say they're probably about on par with a dude who's been chased up a tree by a grizzly bear and the tree is on fire. So standing up these days, I have to make the obligatory noise. Hence why I tend to remain seated. And Jed Bullet says, looking forward to those smaller 6.4-inch phones you mentioned, but looking forward to my bottle of Talisker that I got given early for my birthday even more. Well, happy birthday and enjoy that absolutely cracking present. The Lonely Loner says, Uncle Spurt, this is my first comment on the show in months. Good to have you back, buddy. Thoughts on Sweden? Well, I've never actually visited Sweden. Got to admit, I'm not a massive fan of most of the stuff that's come out of it, the likes of ABBA and IKEA. But you know, they did come up with the 3-point seatbelt, which is an absolute banger. I would be highly tempted to visit because it looks like a cool country and Swedish people are awesome, but I have heard that it's hideously expensive over there, so just going to do a quick Google on the price of a pint in Stockholm. Actually, no, it, I'll get Gemini to do it. Saves all that awkward typing malarkey. How much is a pint of beer in Stockholm?
A pint of beer in Stockholm typically costs between 59 and 90 Swedish krona, SEK. This roughly converts to £4.30 to £6.50.
That's not bloody expensive. £4.30. If I found a pint of beer around here for £4.30, I'd be blasting confetti out of my arsehole. I'd be so happy. So yeah, Sweden done. Consider me there, basically. And better make this the last comment of the week, is massively out of time. Michael W says, good to see the lovely Veronica make an appearance, albeit a brief and blurry one. Yeah, my daughter has got right back into hair braiding recently, so Veronica has been stolen back, which, you know, was hers to begin with, so fair enough. Hope you'll be able to steal her for the occasional guest appearance, though. Anyway, a massive thank you to everyone who commented last week. Please do tappity tap your thoughts, opinions, questions, whatever you got down below. We'll try and merrily jaunt our way through as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week, what the f is next week? Well, I don't even need to check my calendar to tell you what's going on next week, because this weekend I'm flying out to New Delhi, good old India, for a full week over there with MediaTek. It'll be my first time in India for 2 decades. 2004 was the last time I went there, so I'm praying that the beer is still as ridiculously cheap as I remember. It was like 40 or 50p for a massive bottle of Kingfisher, so yeah, don't let me down, India. I'm going to be over there catching up on all the big MediaTek news and also hopefully going hands-on with lots of Dimensity-powered devices. So stay tuned, I'll be trying to spaff out a few shorts on here and on the TikToks. And while I'm over there, definitely try and shoot a Techspert Weekly for the Fridays as well. Like, it's a pretty packed itinerary, so no idea what form it's going to take or how absolutely smashed I will be on said ridiculously cheap beer, but tune in next week to find out, I guess. In the meantime, a massive thanks to everyone for watching this shower of shit right to the bitter end. Please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell if this hasn't perturbed you too much. And have yourselves a bloody wonderful weekend. Cheers, everybody. Love you.